Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Real Stories of Success podcast. I'm Ryan Herget, sitting here with Austin Lahr.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in today. We much appreciate it. Remember, you guys can always like on iTunes and where
Stitcher,
else? Yeah.
all your favorite podcast platforms, and hit the bell on YouTube if you want to check out, see what our mugs look like, and check out what we have going on.
Yeah. But hey, Ryan, what's going on in your world today, man? Why don't you kind of walk us through what's Ryan's world like?
You know, since we got past the squatter situation a few weeks ago, we've moved on, and really, it's been a really exciting spring, actually. And I just want to take a couple seconds. You and I talk about this a lot on the show, but the power of just showing up on time and getting a little bit better every single day, and the compound effect of doing that over a period of time, it's so cool. We're having easily our best spring of all time up to this point.
That's awesome.
Taking a couple new listings every single week right now, and I really just attribute that to doing what we're doing on this podcast, which is showing up on time and getting that much better every single day and finding ways to improve your systems. Most of the time
on me.
No, I don't know about that. Yeah, there's been a few, but
real quick, I would tell our audience too, man, if you guys want to be inspired, go to Ryan's social media stuff. Man, he does such an amazing job, probably some of the best I've seen in the industry. And I don't talk about this a lot, but I want to keep reminding everybody, go look him up on social media. Man, the guy, talk about setting a goal and sticking with it and posting and really reaching out to his audience out there. Guys, go like Ryan's stuff on social media.
I want to share a little quick story on that, and I appreciate bringing that up, not because it's about me, but more so about the power of consistency of doing things like that. And I don't post like on Facebook or Instagram as much with actual posts, but the power I have found in Facebook and Instagram stories, which are just like quick little daily snippets, and you can tag those appropriately, but that's where your audience is consistently seeing your message. And I'll just sprinkle in a house. I'll sprinkle in, a perfect example. I posted a picture of this perfect lot to build a big giant race shop on, and that's a big part of the world I work in, right? And I posted this awesome lot, and I've talked to 3 people in the last 2 days that are like, dude, where's that at? Where's that at? And in our business, it's all about just simply creating conversations, right?
Yep.
And any way that you can use social media as a simple free platform to create conversations, the better. And so Instagram, Facebook stories, we had a really cool guest, Amy Gregory, on a few weeks ago that talked about that as well. So anyway, I just want to encourage everybody to really take that challenge of just doing that every single day. It's, the impact long-term is substantial. But speaking of that, let's dive into talking to our guest. We've got a super exciting guest on the show today, Bryant Gatz. So bring us up to speed on Bryant, and we'll bring him on the show.
Yeah, so Bryant is amazing, man. Bryant had his best year in 2019. He's a Fairway mortgage loan officer. Been at Fairway 11 years, been in the industry for 24. So much stuff that we can learn from him. Hey, Bryant, how are you today?
I'm doing well, guys. How you doing?
Great. Thanks for being on the podcast, man.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So Bryant, let's kick it off, man. How, you've been in for 24 years, you've been at Fairway for 11 years. How'd you get started in the industry? What's that look like for you? What was your journey?
Wow. Straight out of college, I was in pharmaceutical sales. Well, I was in cellular phone sales for about 3 or 4 years. So back in the day when the flip phone did not exist, guys.
Wow.
So I'll date myself a little bit. I turned 50 this year. And back then, you were still using bag phones or installer. Do either one of you remember those? Right?
I had one. Yes.
I had a bag phone.
My dad had a bag phone.
So I started there, and then I got into pharmaceutical sales, which was the ultimate goal for me, was to get into pharmaceutical sales. And great job, loved it, but I traveled a lot. I was traveling all over the country, covering 2/3 of the state, and I said, this is crazy. And ultimately what happened is a gal that I was dating at the time was in the mortgage industry and said, man, I think you'd be really good at this. So I was looking at a new job, maybe a new profession. And she goes, I think you should try this out. And as I said, the rest is history. I ended up at Crown Mortgage. So if you guys remember those days or have ever heard of that. So started there, and the rest is history, as you say.
No, that's cool. And, your journey is obviously taking you, to a really, really cool spot, with everything you have going on at Fairway and doing over $35 million last year in production. I mean, that's an incredible number. So let's kind of dive into that a little bit. Take us back to that beginning when you were, first getting started, Bryant. Kind of walk us through, how did you start to find your way? Who were maybe some of the mentors, the people that, kind of showed you the ropes when you were first getting started in this business?
Wow, Ryan, great question. And I would attribute it all to one person. And Austin, I think you've met her, Marleen Scheetz. And Marleen was my mentor going into this. Absolutely amazing woman. She has become a second mother to me, just near and dear to me. She was basically the person that brought me in and said, listen, you have a lot of potential. Come stick with me. I'll give you a funny story. She said, hey, we're going to go to an event tonight. And listen, it's going to be a bunch of women in there probably, and some guys. But listen, the girls are going to eat, the ladies, the older ladies, and I say older ladies, I'm sorry. But, the 40, 50-year-old, you come with me. At the time, I'm 20. She goes, these ladies are going to eat you up. They're going to love you, right? Come along, we go. She goes, this is what it's about. And so back in the day when everything was centered around tent parties at title companies and everybody was out socializing, and I think we're kind of getting back to that. But she took me along with her and just started introducing me to people. And that was, Marleen became my mentor. Everything she asked me to do or guided me to do or even told me to do at certain times is what I did. And she just said, listen, do this, follow my instructions, and I promise you'll be successful. And it's pretty cool to have somebody take you under their wing that has 25 years of experience, super knowledgeable, and say, hey, this is what you need to do. Let's go do it.
So I think something, Bryant, that you just said there was you found a mentor. And Austin, we've talked about this so much on the podcast, especially when you're first getting started in any new endeavor. And then as your career grows as well, finding somebody that's been where you want to go. Tell us about that. What were some of the things that Marleen, specifically maybe shared with you? You talked about maybe some of the networking, and I really want to dive into that here in a minute as well, because I know you're exceptional at that. But what were some of those early things that she helped really instill within you to help make sure that those early years were the success that they were?
Well, oddly enough, Ryan, you brought it up earlier, right? You guys were both just talking about showing up on time, being on time, and being present. It's so easy back then, or it was for me, where I wasn't married. I didn't have kids, right? So our only thing said, listen, get here. As you've heard before, the early bird gets the worm, right? So show up, be ready to go. That was the first thing, show up and do that. But networking was big. Back then, there were a lot of social events. So show up, network. And the one thing she taught me was be direct, be honest, but don't try to cover the entire room, right? Go after and talk to and go deeper in discussion with a set group of people, 1, 2, 3. If you're going to an event, don't go in there trying to walk out with 10, 20 business cards, right? And I think that's, to me, I think that's a mistake that's commonly made. How many cards can you walk out with? Well, if you're going to be in relationship with somebody, and this is a relationship business. I think it's harder with millennials and where this industry is going, and we're being commoditized daily, more and more. But that was the one thing she instilled in me, is just be in a relationship with this individual, get to know them a little bit better, understand them, know about their families, know what they like to do, their hobbies, where they like to go to dinner, what they like to drink, their snacks. Just know that on a deeper level, because everybody's going to use you because they know, like, and trust you, right? And that trust is going to be built, but there's going to be a time you're going to screw up. You're going to make a mistake. Nobody's perfect. And you want to have that solid foundation to know that you're doing everything you're supposed to be doing. So that was one of the first things, is just when you go to a networking event, spend time with 1, 2, or 3 people. Like, if you're there for an hour and a half, you don't need to talk to 50 different people. Know your audience, know who you're going to meet with, and kind of do some research beforehand. That was one of the big things, honestly. There's more, and I can expound on that if you'd like, but that was probably the most important thing she said to me, because we were always out at events and doing things, because that was more prevalent. Everybody was in an office at that point in time. If you remember, there was no automation, right?
Right.
Everybody had to be in the office to do things because everything was paper. There was no LP or DU. You weren't running it through automated systems to get approval. You had to literally walk into an underwriter's office and go, hey, here's my file. Can I get a loan? Right? It is that kind of interaction. So a lot of, kissing babies and shaking hands back then. That was really the biggest thing.
Well, and, it obviously made a big impression on you, because one of the things that I loved about your business and what you do now is networking. So tell our audience, what's your system behind that? How often do you do something? What do you do? Walk us through that.
Sure. There's several things. One is, I always advise people to get into different groups, right? For me, B&I has been a mainstay. B&I accounts for about 10 to 12% of my business annually. Just those relationships, that's one.
For those new in the industry, what's B&I?
Business Networking International.
Okay.
Yep. No, that's a good point. But there's local chapters. I mean, there's only one individual per profession that's allowed in. So it is truly a networking group. And there's other chapters I say other chapters. There's other groups that are out there that are similar. I just think the one that is here to stay, and it has systems, it has processes, it has dues, it has fees, stuff like that. you're going to be vested, right? So that's one. The other thing I like to do, and I do 2 events per month, especially for my clients and for realtor or referral partners. I have a happy hour once a month, and I also have a lunch and learn once a month. So I'm always doing something to bring value to those I work with. And, we celebrate, at the beginning of every month. I don't do it at the end of the month, do it at the beginning because everybody's trying to cram stuff in, right? Ryan, you know this as well as anybody. Realtors are always closing stuff mid to end of the month.
Yep.
Doesn't seem like the beginning wants to be, the beginning of the month is not when everybody wants to do stuff. So, the beginning of the month to celebrate, get together. There's no obligation. Hey, this is what we're doing. Stop on by. We'll buy you a drink. If you're not drinking, we'll get you a pop or a water. But just the social aspect to connect with them one-on-one. Those are the core 3 things I do every month.
Diving one step deeper into something you just said there, because I think there's so much power in this, from a networking standpoint. I've taken, this on a lot myself this year. And, you go to these events, you meet these people, but I think the magic, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but is in what happens after that, and how you connect with people on that one-on-one basis after that. How do you do that? What's that process? You mentioned, doing some bigger events with people, but what's that look like to really establish that relationship, to build those referral partners and make sure that people do know that you're there and you care?
Sure. Great question once again. And the biggest thing for me is just, hey, let's grab coffee. Let's get together. Let's sit down. And it may be, people say a half an hour to an hour. I don't put a time limit on it sometimes. We always go in and say, hey, we got about an hour. Is that good for you? And we talk. But normally the first couple of meetings have nothing to do with business. They really don't. Mm-hmm. I'm getting to know them. They're getting to know me. What do they like to do? Everything about relationships, right? So the first couple times that I meet with them or even talk to them, I follow up with them, send videos, send thank you letters. I'm a huge fan of handwritten letters, right? Handwritten notes. I send on average between 10 and 15 a week. And that's not much. You talk to other people sending out 50 or 60, but you're sending heartfelt letters. Hey, it was great to meet you, Ryan. It was great to meet you, Austin. You do such a wonderful job. I really want to get to know you a little bit better. Let's grab a coffee. I'll follow up with you in a week, right? Those kind of things. And then start to dive into the business aspect and how can you be of value to them and help them grow their business. But that's the biggest thing. The follow-up is getting to know them, talk to them, spending some time with them, and then really cultivating the relationship first as far as a personal relationship, and then getting into the business aspect of it.
I can personally attest to that. You did a loan on a listing I had that was almost 2 years ago now, and I got one of those handwritten notes.
Nice.
So, it's all the little details. And, again, I can personally attest you do that really, really well. It was a nice, well-written, just thank you note, and I love that.
That's great. That leads right into what I did want to. Another question I wanted to talk to you about is I'm sure thank you notes are part of your system, right? And you're a systems guy, and that really speaks to what I do. Having the same, if action A always leads to reaction B, right? And so walk us through, how is that important in your business to be a systems guy, and what's that look like? What do you do in your system?
Well, I'm going to go with the first part of that right out of the gates. I could tell you that if you don't have systems, you can do a pretty decent job, but you're not going to blow up and be the guy that you want to be or the gal that you want to be as far as do the numbers, right? And it's not all about numbers, but I could tell you that once I got into coaching very seriously, my numbers doubled in a very short amount of time. And so what that looks like is systems have to be in place. You have to have processes and procedures. I have a team. You also have to do this with a team. If you have any aspiration of growing and being good at what you do, I can't do it alone, right? Just like when you get married, somebody will tell you, hey, behind every good man's a great woman, right? That's what they tell me all the time. They give my wife all the credit. But you've got to have a team behind you. So those systems have to be in place, because it's like McDonald's, right? If you go to McDonald's in New York, you go to McDonald's in Washington, you go to McDonald's in Japan, right? The food is still the same. Now there's variances on what they serve, right? But the cheeseburger still tastes like the cheeseburger, right? And so if you're going to put something in or start a process or start alone, and you want the same result every time, you've got to have the systems in place to make sure there's consistency. And if you don't, that's where you're going to fail. Every single time, you just will not get the same results. And we want raving fans at the end of what we do.
You mentioned something there one more time, and you mentioned once you got into coaching was when you really started to employ a lot of the systems that you currently have. For maybe somebody that is at that stage right now, they're doing 4 deals a month, 5 deals a month, something like that, and they're really kind of capped out because they don't have those systems, and they're kind of running scattered all over the place. And what are those first steps? Is it truly to hire a coach that will help you do that, or how did you take those first couple steps to get that off the ground?
Well, the first step is finding somebody that you can be accountable to. Not everybody's going to be able to hold you accountable at a high level. And I started out with a company called Building Champions. Probably people have heard of them, and they've been around for a while. They were phenomenal. They did a great job for me. I wanted more out of it. I knew what I wanted, but I didn't know how to implement it or set it up. I didn't know the system, Austin, to your point. I didn't know the system I needed, right? I'm like, okay, I'm floundering over here. I was doing 16 million, 18 million by most accounts. Everybody'd say, hey, that's a pretty good year. And I'm like, but I want more. I want to do more. What's that look like? How do I put the systems in place? So the first thing I would say is identifying somebody or a company that you want to have as a mentor or somebody that you can be accountable to. So you got to start out with that. How do you find them? You're going to have to interview them. You're going to have to go through and figure out who it is. And then you've got to decide if you're going to jump in with both feet. And if you do, you have to jump in with both feet, right? So for me, it went from Building Champions to the core, and the core is where I finally found those systems. And it looks like this, the file comes in. What do you do with the file? And there's a checklist. These things have to be done. These are the questions that have to be asked. You need an application. Great. You need to pull credit and so on. I don't want to bore you with all those details, but that system looks the same every time. It's in writing. It's on paper. It's in a file, and it's the first thing we go through, and that starts it. And then there's a follow-up system because not everybody's going to convert or buy right away or refinance right away. So then you have to have a follow-up system, right? And then once they come in, then we have somebody that goes contract to close, and they have a system. So it took time to develop it, but it's got to start with the coaching, I think. For me, that's what really changed everything for me. And it's an awesome thing to do. I mean, if anybody's trying to grow their business, you've got to find a coach. Or a mentor, right? Somebody that's going to hold you accountable so you start moving and doing things at a higher level.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot on our podcast. Something that we always look for the themes that we hear in all of our top producers. Mm-hmm. Coaching tends to be one of those, right? So,
without a doubt.
So everybody out there, go find a coach, right? So, all right. Again, going back and just to remind everybody, you did $35 million in loans last year. That is a huge number. How did you make 2019 your best year? What are some of those things that you attribute to making 2019 that best year you've had?
No. The most influential and powerful thing I did last year was I brought on a junior loan officer, right? So we talk about, in Austin, I know you coach and you're involved in some things, and to pay it forward and find a higher reason. And I know maybe that sounds cliche, like somebody says, oh yeah, right, whatever. But it is. I mean, I'm a man of faith, and so you pray on things. And if you can take your knowledge and your expertise and the things that you've learned, and listen, I've had my trials and tribulations all the way through my 24 years. Nothing's come super easy. I think everybody's had their rough times. But not only focusing on what I should be doing and loving the actual grind, that's the other transition. So loving the grind and then finding somebody else to mentor and pour into them, right? So it was my first junior loan officer. She's awesome. She's with me. She's going to have her best month ever. Your best month yet. This month of February, and then March is looking really good for her as well. So you pour into somebody else and you start to see it blossom, and it's kind of neat. It takes you back to when you first started, right? The joy we take it for granted that you do, the numbers that you do, Austin, or I do, or Ryan. And you go, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And if we have a bad month, we do 10 or 12 deals. We're like, this stinks. This is the worst thing since who knows. But then you look at somebody that's doing 0 or 1 or 2, and all of a sudden they start hitting 4 or 5. You're like, that's cool. Yeah. That's really cool. So that's just as rewarding as anything else. But then that grind, that was the mind shift. You asked about that, Austin. For me in particular, enjoying the grind. Monday, I have to do this. Tuesday, I have to do this. Wednesday, I've got to do this. Thursday, I've got to do this. And Friday. If I do those things and I do them well, and I'm super efficient, and by the way, guys, I'm not super efficient with them. I'm pretty bad at it, honestly. So I did that in spite of myself. But it's a growing and maturing process, right? So that's really it. I attribute to those two things. Enjoying the grind more and more. By the way, here's where I started. Monday's the best day of the week.
It is.
Monday's the best day of the week. If you come in with that attitude, it sets the tone for the rest of the week.
I could not agree with that more. I mean, you're so spot on with that, and you have to love the work. If you don't love the work, you've got to find something else to do, because you can't get to where you want to be without doing that grind, as you called it. You've got to do the work every single day. And Austin, I know you call it the green light activities, but you have to just build that into your schedule and make sure that gets done. And again, the compound effect of doing that. And now, as you're bringing people on, as you're coaching and mentoring people yourself, that's got to be incredibly rewarding to see this new junior loan officer having this, the amount of success that she is already, and just having a small piece of that. That's got to push you to do better as well, I would imagine, right?
Oh yeah, we're competitive, right? If we weren't, if the three of us, especially, or anybody else out there in the industry that's doing well, if you're not competitive, you're probably in the wrong industry, right? I like to see other people flourish, but that motivates me to do a little bit better. Hey, what are they doing? And the other thing that's great about not only my team, but also somebody like Austin, somebody like Fairway, the company, I have learned to share. I've learned to share. There aren't a lot of great loan officers out there. I think there's a lot of good ones. I don't think there's a lot of great ones. And the ones that are great will share with other people. And my coaching taught me that. And that's what's pretty cool and pretty powerful. Why would you be ashamed? And, listen, not everybody's going to do it. Not everybody's going to do it. So somebody asks why you're doing what you're doing. This is what I'm doing, right? They've got to emulate you, and they've got to follow through to a T. Otherwise, they're not going to have the same results.
That's spot on. I think so many people, and I get asked this a lot, well, why did you just give away your whole listing presentation? Well, it's because not everybody's going to use it. I mean, I used to give it away, dozens and dozens of times every single month, and you've got to actually show up and use that listing presentation if it's going to do you any good. And unfortunately, a lot of people just don't want to take that step and do the work, as you've said, and you've got to practice that. You've got to perfect it. And then, that only comes with time. So kind of shifting gears here real quick, Bryant, and again, we are so thankful for all of your time. And if you've taken anything away from this already, and I don't know how you couldn't, please be sure to hit that bell, like, comment, subscribe, tune into this, because we're going to have so many more guests on just like Bryant that are just doing amazing work within their industry, this industry and other sales industries as well. But shifting gears, what are you most excited about as we're, now a month and a half into 2020 now? You've got this junior loan officer that's, kicking butt and taking names. You've already got this year started off on a great note. What are you most excited about as we look forward into 2020 now and, your business specifically?
Yeah, no, I'm ecstatic. And in Austin, I've communicated a lot here in the first couple weeks and first couple months, really, as we're almost the end of February. This is crazy. Right now, I'm excited. I'm joining forces with another loan officer. We're going to make a branch, make a team, and we're going to blow this thing up. And we've got a lot of things on the horizon. I want to just contribute to pour back into other people, help them be successful. And again, just carry forward what I started 24 years ago. Bring other people in, train them up, get them to where they're being successful, and help them attain their goals. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm excited about. So there's a lot of great things for us. I've never really thought on this big a scale. It was all Austin and I've spent a lot of time talking over the years, and I've always thought, hey, just take care of yourself, right? Just do my business, and everything will be great. And now I'm finding that the more I do and the more I pour into others, it just exponentially grows, right? So if I can continue to help my team do better, if I can help Brandy do a little bit better, if I can help John and I can partner up and do, it's pretty crazy to think what you can do. I'm seeing Austin's team just crank out some massive numbers with what he's done. And it kind of gets you're competitive, right, Ryan? We talked about it.
No doubt,
yeah. All right, hey, Austin's doing this. I don't need to necessarily do as well as he does, but I know it can be done, and I want to get to that point. So where we're just, I don't want to say we're on cruise control, because you can never rest, but things are just constantly in a state of growth, and you're always trying to improve yourself. And so that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about the prospects of growing a team and having something like that. So it's pretty neat.
Well, I got to tell you, man, I really, really appreciate you doing this, taking time out of your morning to be on here. If someone in our audience wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? And for those out there that are just listening, we're going to have all of Bryant's contact information. You can always watch us on YouTube as well. So, Bryant, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, thanks. There's a couple ways. Email is always good. teamgatz@fairwaymc.com. Direct email, bryantg@fairwaymc.com. Or team line 317-731-4760, direct 317-490-6098. So those are the 4 best ways to contact us.
Reach out to this guy. He will definitely help you out. And Bryant, I want to ask you one more thing. You posted something on Facebook probably a month or so ago now, but it was, and kind of going back to something you said a few minutes ago about you're a man of faith, and you did this Exodus 90 challenge, or you're in the process of doing it right now. Tell me about that, because when I was looking through that, I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks hard, but it's super inspiring at the same time. And like, I've not taken that challenge on yet, but tell me about that if you don't mind.
Man, that's awesome. And to bring that up now is pretty cool. So I'm 30, I believe I'm 36 days in, and it's not easy. You're right. But it is an absolute challenge that the Catholic religion has brought to the forefront. And so what we're doing is, it's colder showers, there's asceticism. So things that you have to forego, no drinking, no sweets, no snacking. You've got to pray for an hour every night. And that's tough. Being a man of faith and growing up in a Catholic religion and also attending Catholic school, I think I can do a pretty good job of praying, but I challenge anybody to come up and say, oh yeah, I pray for an hour every day, unless you're a monk or a priest. I mean, that's not something that's randomly done. So yeah. You can get 10, 20 minutes in there, but to do it for an hour is tough. It's not easy. And we falter. And that's the thing. And that's why it's 90 days, leads into Lent. But it's a challenge. There's some weight loss that goes with it. Discipline, something that I think we all need in our lives. I think I stray from it, but it's a pretty cool concept. So if it is on my Facebook, it's a great thing. If anybody wants to talk about that, I'd be happy to share. It's a pretty powerful experience. We have a fraternity, if they call it, so there's 8 guys that are all together going through it at the same time. And I have an anchor, so an accountability partner, and we talk every day. And it's a cool thing, Ryan. So thanks for asking. It's pretty neat. So if you want to know more about it, definitely let me know.
I do want to ask one more question, because, going through a challenge like that, and, especially doing it with a group of, men in this case that are, working with you, and, you're going through this experience together. I mean, there's some things on this list, and I'm not going to go through it all right now. Get on Bryant's Facebook page and check this out. But it was on January 13th is when this was posted. Maybe you could post it again. But
sure. What
are some of the challenges? Because there's some, you mentioned like no drinking, no sweets, and, there's some, consistent praying and working out in there. How challenging has that actually been to commit to doing that? Because it's not a list of 3 things. It's an entire page of disciplined activities. But I would imagine that being almost a third of the way through it at this point, it's got to be absolutely life-changing at this point already with the disciplines that it's instilling in you.
It's amazing. The faith formation and the growth that I've had from it are amazing. This is affecting my kids. My wife is aware of it. Obviously, we have to be, there's fasting involved. It's not easy. It's not, and it's a challenge. But just in the 30 days, to be more in the presence of God and to think about things where, we have a tendency. Our jobs are very emotional, right?
Definitely.
Money is very emotional, and so to be able to handle things, and I think I've grown over the years, and I don't have a knee-jerk reaction as maybe I did early on in my career, but to be able to absorb something, take it in, dissect it, think about it for a minute, and then respond to it in a professional, more quote unquote godly like manner. That's really the biggest growth. It's not life or death. What we do is not life or death. We provide a service, and we're really good at that service. And if we do that, we're gonna have raving fans for life. But in the end, it means nothing, right? It really doesn't. So why are we here? What do we do? So you get a little bit deeper in your thought process, but it's a pretty amazing thing to have happen and just grow. And that's really the biggest thing, is the faith that's coming back out of it, to reconnect. And not only that, guys, to reconnect with your family. So you're right, the distractions, no TV, no movies, stuff like that. We have more game nights at home, right? My wife looked at me the other day, she goes, can we do something other than a game night? I'm like, yeah, what do you want to do? Any suggestions, I'm open to it, but you can't sit down and plop down in front of a TV, and you can't go out to see a movie. So you're engaged with your family more. One of the things we deal with now in society is the mental stress that we put on our kids, right? We lock them in their rooms, or they lock themselves in a room, so to speak, right? We don't do it, but they go up there and they have their TVs and their Facebook and their phones. And so now you kind of re-engage with the family as well. And that's the 2 biggest things. You get your faith, and you get to reconnect with your family. So it's been an awesome, powerful thing for us to go through so far as a family. So thank you for asking.
Very cool. No, I absolutely love that. Well, that is going to wrap up a very, very cool edition of the Real Stories of Success podcast. Bryant, I cannot thank you enough for taking a few minutes out of your busy morning here to sit down with Austin and I and share your story. And I have no doubt there's going to be a lot of people walking away with some very positive experiences from this one. So again, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. And for this edition, this is Ryan Herget.
Austin Lahr. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Take care.